I stood frozen at my niece Emma's birthday party as my sister Amanda loudly announced, "Still playing house with your cats instead of having real children, Bree?" The room erupted in laughter. Everyone was staring at me, their eyes full of mockery. Blood rushed to my face as humiliation washed over me. Little did Amanda know, I was aware of her biggest secret. She thought I would just take it like always. Not today. One sentence was about to change everything. Her smile would soon vanish. The drive home from Emma's birthday party felt endless. Every mile, Amanda's words echoed in my mind, each laugh from our relatives piercing deeper. When I finally arrived at my apartment, my 3 cats greeted me at the door. Jasper, my playful tabby, wound between my ankles while Luna, my elegant Siamese, watched from her perch on the bookshelf. Oliver, my one-eyed orange rescue, approached cautiously as always. "At least you 3 don't judge me," I whispered, dropping my purse and keys on the counter. My apartment wasn't the stereotypical cat lady dwelling Amanda had painted. It was a spacious 2-bedroom with large windows, tastefully decorated with plants and comfortable furniture. Yes, there were cat trees in strategic spots and toys tucked into baskets, but it was a home. My home. I changed into comfortable clothes and settled on the couch, Oliver immediately claiming my lap. As I stroked his soft fur, I thought about how he'd come into my life 3 years ago. I'd found him behind my veterinary clinic, injured and abandoned, his left eye damaged beyond saving. The memory of those first weeks nursing him back to health still brought tears to my eyes. My veterinary practice had been open for 6 years now. After working for others through my 20s, I'd taken the leap at 32 to establish my own clinic. Now, at 36, I had 4 employees, a solid client base, and the satisfaction of doing what I loved. My decision to focus on my career hadn't been a rejection of family, as Amanda implied, but a choice to build something meaningful. What my family didn't know, what I had never shared with them, was my private struggle with fertility. 5 years ago, after my relationship with James ended, because he wanted children immediately, I had undergone testing. The results showed diminished ovarian reserve and other complications that would make conceiving difficult. Not impossible, but challenging enough that I had made peace with the possibility that biological children might not be in my future. Amanda, 2 years younger than me at 34, had always been competitive. From childhood, she was the pretty, popular sister while I was the bookish one. She married Todd, a successful financial advisor, right out of college. Their daughter Emma was now 8, and they lived in a showcase home in an exclusive neighborhood. Amanda's Instagram feed was a carefully curated display of perfect family moments, designer outfits, and exotic vacations. I had hoped that attending Emma's birthday would help mend our increasingly strained relationship. Instead, it had made things worse. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was my mother. "Bree, why did you leave so early yesterday?" she asked without preamble. "Mom," Amanda publicly humiliated me. "Did you expect me to stay?" She was just teasing. "You're too sensitive," my mother replied. "Amanda told us afterward that she's worried about you, sweetie. She thinks you might be substituting cats for children. She said it's not healthy." I gripped the phone tighter. "That's ridiculous. I'm a veterinarian. I love animals." "I know, but 3 cats for a single woman. Maybe she has a point. You could try harder to be normal like your sister. Normal like Amanda." The refrain of my childhood. "I have to go, Mom. I have errands to run." I lied, too angry to continue the conversation. After hanging up, I mindlessly scrolled through social media. That's when I saw it. Amanda had posted photos from the party, including several of me looking uncomfortable as she spoke. The caption read, "When your sister thinks cat birthdays are the same as raising children. Number, crazy cat lady. Number, Guiterial family." The comments were filled with laughing emojis and sympathetic replies about how sad it was. This wasn't just a moment of mockery anymore. She had deliberately extended my humiliation to her hundreds of followers, many of whom were mutual acquaintances and relatives. I threw my phone onto the couch, startling Oliver. Tears sprang to my eyes, but beneath the hurt, something else was growing. Anger. This time Amanda had gone too far. She did what? Allison slammed her coffee mug down on the cafe table 2 days later. My best friend since college, she had always been protective of me, especially regarding my family. Posted photos of me at the party with hashtags about being a crazy cat lady, I explained, showing her my phone. Look at the comments. Allison's face darkened as she scrolled. This is bullying, Bree. Pure and simple. You're 36 years old, and your sister is cyberbullying you. It's always been like this. I sighed, stirring my latte absently. Remember how she acted at her wedding? 6 years ago, Amanda had insisted I be her maid of honor, despite our growing tension. The entire event had been a showcase of her perfect life, with me as a prop in her performance. You'll find someone someday, she had said loudly at the reception, patting my arm condescendingly in front of a group of guests. Not everyone can be as lucky as me. What made it worse was that I had been dating James then, but he couldn't attend due to a work commitment. Amanda had known this, but chose to paint me as hopelessly single. Your sister has always been jealous of you, Allison said, bringing me back to the present. You're successful on your own terms. You built your practice from nothing. You don't need to ride on someone else's achievements. I appreciated Allison's support, but we both knew there was more to it than jealousy. My relationship with Amanda was rooted in our childhood dynamics. As a child, I excelled academically while Amanda thrived socially. Our parents, especially our mother, seemed to value Amanda's popularity over my scholastic achievements. Good grades are expected, Bree, my mother would say when I showed her my report card. But when Amanda was elected homecoming queen or dated the football captain, there were celebrations and photos prominently displayed. Have you thought about just limiting contact with her? Allison asked. And with your parents if they won't respect your boundaries? The truth was, I had considered it many times, especially after James and I broke up. When I had quietly told my family about my fertility challenges, seeking support, my mother had responded with, well, Amanda got pregnant right away. Maybe you're just too stressed with your work. I hadn't mentioned it again, and they seemed to forget about it entirely. Assuming my childlessness was simply a career choice rather than something more complex, I try to maintain boundaries, but then there's Emma, I explained. She's innocent in all this, and I love being her aunt. That's fair, Allison conceded. But you can have a relationship with Emma without subjecting yourself to Amanda's cruelty. We talked for another hour, discussing strategies for handling future family interactions. As we were leaving the cafe, Allison invited me over for dinner that weekend. Greg is grilling, and the kids would love to see you. Bring pictures of the cats. They always want updates on Oliver's adventures. Allison's supportive attitude toward my pets was such a contrast to my family's. Her children, ages 7 and 10, adored my cats and never questioned why I didn't have human children of my own. That Saturday, I arrived at Allison and Greg's suburban home with a bottle of wine and my phone loaded with recent cat photos. After dinner, while Allison was helping the kids with dessert, I stepped into the hallway to use the restroom. That's when I overheard Greg on the phone in his office, the door slightly ajar. Yeah, it was definitely him, Greg was saying. Todd, Bree's brother-in-law, at that new restaurant in Portland, with a woman and a little boy, maybe 3 years old. Very cozy, definitely not a business meeting. No, Bree doesn't know. And please don't say anything to Allison. She'd feel obligated to tell Bree. And it's not our business. I backed away silently, my mind racing. Todd with another woman and a child in Portland? That was over 100 miles from our city. Amanda and Emma had been at a mother-daughter spa weekend recently, while Todd was supposedly on a business trip. Had that been a lie? Throughout the rest of the evening, I tried to act normal, but my thoughts kept returning to what I'd overheard. If Todd was having an affair, that was bad enough. But a child? A second family? It seemed unbelievable. Yet something clicked into place. The perfect marriage Amanda flaunted suddenly seemed suspect. Was her obsession with maintaining appearances hiding something darker? And if so, how long had it been going on? I drove home in a daze, the revelation sitting heavy in my stomach. If true, this would devastate Amanda. Despite our problems, I didn't wish that kind of pain on my sister. But another part of me wondered if she already knew. Amanda had always been observant and calculating. Could she be aware and choosing to ignore it for the sake of her perfect image? The questions swirled as I arrived home. Luna greeted me with her typical aloof affection, and I found myself envying the simplicity of her feline existence. No family drama, no social media humiliation, no complicated secrets. I wasn't sure what to do with this information, or if I should do anything at all. But one thing was certain. My perspective on Amanda's perfect life had shifted dramatically. 2 weeks after overhearing Greg's conversation, I was finishing up with a client at my veterinary clinic when my receptionist, Diane, announced, "Your last appointment is here, Mark Thompson, with Baxter." I walked into the exam room to find a familiar face. Mark had been in Todd's fraternity in college and attended Amanda's wedding. He was now a local high school principal with a chocolate Labrador who suffered from chronic ear infections. "Bree, great to see you." Mark greeted me warmly. "Baxter's ear is bothering him again." As I examined the gentle lab, Mark and I caught up. He asked about my clinic's expansion, and I inquired about his wife and kids. The conversation flowed easily until Mark mentioned something that made me freeze. "I ran into Todd in Portland last month," he said casually. "He was with his family at that new riverfront park. Nice guy, that little boy of his. How old is he now? 3? I kept my face neutral as I cleaned Baxter's ear. "Emma is 8 now," I said carefully. Mark looked confused. "No, I meant his son. The little boy who was with him and that woman." An uncomfortable silence fell. Mark's face registered his mistake, and he quickly backtracked. "Oh, maybe it wasn't Todd. Could have been someone who looked like him. My mistake, but the damage was done." The confirmation of what I'd overheard at Allison's house now sat plainly between us. "Probably just someone who looked similar," I agreed, finishing Baxter's treatment with steady hands despite my internal turmoil. "His medication is the same as last time. Come back in 2 weeks if you don't see improvement." After Mark left, looking relieved that I hadn't pressed the issue, I closed my office door and sat at my computer. What had begun as a suspicion now demanded investigation. I started with social media, searching for Todd under variations of his name. Nothing unusual appeared on his public profiles. Then I tried a slightly altered spelling of his last name and found another account. The profile picture was of a boat, not a person, but the location was listed as Portland. Clicking through, I found photos of a lovely blonde woman named Stephanie, with a young boy who had Todd's distinctive blue eyes and cleft chin. The account had limited posts, but there were enough to piece together a timeline. Todd with the boy as an infant, 3 years ago. A Christmas morning in what looked like a modest but comfortable home. A summer barbecue where Todd stood behind Stephanie, his arms around her waist, both smiling. None of the posts mentioned Todd by name, but his face was clearly visible in several photos. In one particularly damning image from 6 months ago, he wore the custom-made watch Amanda had given him for their 10th anniversary. My hands shaking, I conducted a property search in Portland and found a house purchased 3 years ago by a T. Alexander LLC. Todd's middle name was Alexander. 3 years. Todd had apparently been living a double life for at least 3 years. The question remained, did Amanda know? And if she did, what was her game? My sister had always valued appearances above all else. But would she really tolerate her husband having another family? I needed more information before deciding what to do. That weekend, I visited my parents' home, ostensibly to drop off some fresh vegetables from the farmer's market. "That's thoughtful, Bree," my father said, welcoming me in. "Your mother's at her book club. She'll be sorry she missed you." I was secretly relieved. Conversations with my father alone were always easier. "How are things, Dad?" I asked as we sat at the kitchen table. "You and Mom doing okay?" He looked tired, I noticed. More so than a man in his mid-60s should. "We're fine," he said, but his eyes didn't meet mine. "Dad, is something wrong? You don't seem like yourself." He hesitated, then sighed. "Just some financial adjustments. Nothing for you to worry about." "What kind of adjustments?" "Your mother doesn't like me discussing money matters," he hedged. "I'm not asking for details, Dad. I'm just concerned about you." Before he could respond, my mother returned, her book club having ended early. The conversation immediately shifted to safer topics. While they were preparing lunch, I excused myself to use the bathroom. Passing my father's home office, I noticed a stack of financial documents on his desk. Normally, I would never pry, but my concern overrode my scruples. Glancing quickly at the papers, I saw statements showing large withdrawals from their retirement accounts. One recent transfer of $50,000 had gone to a bank account with Amanda and Todd's names. Just then, I heard my parents' voices in the hallway. "We can't keep supporting both families, Margaret," my father was saying in a hushed tone. "Our savings are nearly depleted. What choice do we have?" My mother responded. "Amanda says Todd will leave her if she confronts him about the affair. Do you want Emma growing up in a broken home?" "But Amanda's demands keep increasing," my father protested. "First, it was just helping with Emma's private school when Todd started diverting money to his other situation. Now it's the country club membership, the house repairs, her shopping." "Shh, Bri might hear you." Their voices faded as they moved back toward the kitchen. I stood in shock, trying to process what I'd just discovered. Not only did Amanda know about Todd's other family, but she was blackmailing him while simultaneously draining our parents' retirement funds to maintain her lifestyle. The perfect family image she projected was a complete fabrication. Meanwhile, my parents were sacrificing their financial security to help her maintain the charade. I returned to the kitchen, struggling to act normal through lunch. On the drive home, pieces fell into place. Amanda's increased social media presence, showcasing her luxury lifestyle. Her subtle digs about my more modest living. The lavish birthday party for Emma with the expensive catering and entertainment. It was all a desperate attempt to maintain appearances while her marriage crumbled beneath the surface. That night, I drafted and deleted multiple text messages to Amanda, trying to find the words to confront her about what I'd learned. Finally, I settled on a simple request. "We need to talk, just the two of us. Coffee tomorrow?" Her response came quickly. "About what?" "Important family matters," I replied, deliberately vague. After a long pause, "Fine." Meridian Cafe, D's AM. The next morning, I arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early, rehearsing what I would say. I wanted to approach this with compassion despite my anger. After all, Amanda was still my sister, and her world was evidently more fragile than it appeared. 10 o'clock came and went. At 10:30, I texted her. At 11, I called. No answer. Finally, as I was about to leave, my phone chimed with a text. "Sorry, too busy with real family responsibilities to hear about your cat problems. Maybe try a therapist? They get paid to pretend your issues matter." I stared at the screen, a familiar hurt blooming in my chest. Then, something snapped. The accumulated years of mockery, dismissal, and cruelty crystallized into a hard, clear resolve. Amanda thought she could continue manipulating everyone around her, draining our parents' retirement while publicly ridiculing me. She believed I would retreat as I always had, nursing my wounds privately. Not this time. The sun was setting as I pulled into my parents' driveway, casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. The memory of Emma's birthday party 1 week earlier was still raw, but I needed to revisit it in my mind, to fully process what had happened and what I now knew. I had arrived at Amanda and Todd's suburban mansion just after 3, carrying carefully selected gifts for my niece. Unlike Amanda's predictable princess dress, I had chosen things aligned with Emma's secret passion for astronomy. A beginner's telescope, books about space, and a constellation map for her ceiling. I knew from our occasional one-on-one time that Emma loved science, but hid this from her mother, who pushed her toward ballet and pageants. Amanda had greeted me with an air kiss and a once-over. "Interesting outfit choice," she'd commented, though I was wearing a perfectly appropriate sundress. The backyard had been transformed with a princess and knights theme, complete with a rented castle bounce house and staff dressed as medieval characters. About 30 adults milled around the patio, while twice as many children played on the expansive lawn. "Aunt Bree!" Emma had spotted me and run over, her princess tiara slightly askew. "You came. I wouldn't miss it," I'd assured her, bending down for a hug. As Emma unwrapped my gifts, her eyes had lit up, but Amanda quickly intervened. "Books? Really, Bree?" She had pushed them aside in favor of the frilly pink dress she'd purchased as a gift from Mom. "Emma loves pretty things, don't you, sweetie? You can put these science things in the donation pile." The hurt in Emma's eyes had been quickly masked, but I caught it. She had squeezed my hand surreptitiously before being swept away to greet other guests. Throughout the afternoon, various relatives had cornered me with intrusive questions. "Still no man in your life? Isn't it time to settle down? Your biological clock must be ticking so loudly." I had deflected as politely as possible, but the constant barrage was exhausting. Todd had been noticeably absent for most of the party, appearing briefly to help with the cake before disappearing inside, phone in hand. The turning point came when Amanda clinked her glass for attention. I had been chatting with Emma about her interest in space, a rare moment of genuine connection amid the orchestrated perfection. "Everyone," Amanda had announced, "I'd like to propose a toast to my big sister Bree." The unexpectedness of it had caught me off guard. "Was this an olive branch? Some of you may not know this," she continued, her voice carrying across the yard, "but Bree is a very devoted mother to her 3 cats." Laughter rippled through the crowd. My face burned as Amanda continued. "She sends them to daycare? She has cat trees in every room? She celebrates their birthdays with little hats and special cat food cakes?" The laughter grew louder as Amanda pulled out her phone. "Look, she posts more photos of them than most of us do, of our actual children. Here's one in a Halloween costume. Here's another in a Christmas sweater." She had found photos from my private Instagram account, which I rarely used and had only a few close friends on. The invasion of privacy was as hurtful as the mockery. "Still playing house with your cats instead of having real children, Bree?" Amanda had delivered the final blow with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Everyone was laughing. Even my parents, though they at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. I had stood frozen, humiliation washing over me. Emma had been the only one not laughing. She had stared at her mother with something like disappointment. I had managed to excuse myself, heading for my car, when Amanda followed me. "Why are you leaving so early? Can't take a joke?" she'd asked, her voice sweet, but her eyes cold. "That wasn't a joke, Amanda. That was cruelty." "Oh, lighten up. Everyone thinks your cat obsession is weird. I'm just saying what they're all thinking. You don't know the first thing about my life?" "I know enough," she'd said dismissively. "You're an embarrassment to this family, Bree. A 36-year-old cat lady whose biggest achievement is a small-town veterinary practice. Meanwhile, I've created a beautiful family and home. People look up to me. What do they think of you?" I had driven away then, too hurt to respond. But that wasn't the end of the party for me. As I'd pulled away, I noticed Todd hurrying to his car, phone pressed to his ear. On impulse, I had parked down the street and walked back, approaching from the side yard. Todd stood by his car in the driveway, speaking in a voice I'd never heard from him before, tender and loving. "I miss you too, Steph," he was saying. "I'll be there tomorrow night." "I know, buddy. Daddy misses you too. Tell him I'll bring his favorite truck. I love you both so much." I'd slipped away unnoticed, but those words had confirmed everything. Todd wasn't just having an affair. He had another family. A family he spoke to with more affection than I'd ever heard him use with Amanda. Now, sitting in my car outside my parents' house a week later, I contemplated the complex web of deceit and manipulation that defined my family. My mother expecting me for dinner, unaware that I had pieced together their financial situation. Amanda continuing her social media performance of perfect motherhood, while knowing her husband had another child. Todd living a double life while my parents funded the charade. And me, the family scapegoat, portrayed as the pathetic one. It was time for things to change. I drove home from my parents' house in tears, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The weight of everything I'd discovered pressed on my chest until it was hard to breathe. For years, I had been the family outcast, judged for my choices while Amanda was placed on a pedestal. Now I knew it had all been a lie. The perfect marriage, the financial success, the ideal family, all carefully constructed falsehoods maintained at my parents' expense. At home, I collapsed on the couch, and Jasper immediately jumped up, pressing his warm body against my side. Luna watched from her perch, while Oliver cautiously approached, sensing my distress. Their presence was comforting in its simplicity and honesty, something sorely lacking in my human family. I thought back to childhood, searching for the moment when Amanda and I had diverged so dramatically. We had shared a bedroom until I was 12, whispering secrets after lights out. I remembered the summer when I was 14 and Amanda 12, before the competition took over, when we had built an elaborate fort in the backyard and spent days creating stories together. She had been my first best friend. What had happened to that sister? When had approval and appearances become her entire identity? My phone rang, startling me out of my memories. It was Allison. "How are you holding up?" she asked, knowing about the birthday party humiliation. "I've discovered something," I said. And then it all poured out. Todd's double life, my parents' dwindling retirement, Amanda's blackmail and financial demands. "My God, Bree," Allison breathed when I finished. "That's a lot." I tried to meet with Amanda today to talk about it, but she stood me up and sent a cruel text instead. "Are you going to confront her?" I sighed. "I don't know. Part of me wants to expose everything. But what about Emma? And my parents? They're enabling this, but they'd be humiliated if everyone knew." "Your parents are adults who made their choices," Allison pointed out gently. "And as for Emma, children are resilient. Living in a home built on lies isn't doing her any favors." We talked for another hour, weighing options and consequences. After hanging up, I made a decision. I needed to see my parents again, but this time for an honest conversation. The next day, I arrived at their house, unannounced. My mother looked surprised to see me. "Bree, we weren't expecting you. I need to talk to you and Dad," I said firmly. "It's important." My father appeared from his study, looking even more tired than before. They led me to the living room, exchanging nervous glances. "I know about Todd," I stated without preamble. "I know he has another family in Portland, and I know you've been giving Amanda money to keep quiet about it." The color drained from my mother's face. My father slumped in his chair. "How did you find out?" he asked quietly. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're depleting your retirement to fund Amanda's lies." My mother found her voice. "You don't understand. Amanda discovered Todd's situation 3 years ago. She was devastated. She wanted to leave him, but she was worried about Emma growing up without a father, about losing their social standing. So instead, she decided to blackmail him and drain your savings?" I couldn't keep the anger from my voice. "She didn't start out asking for money," my father explained, his voice weary. "At first, it was just about maintaining appearances. But then Todd started diverting funds to his other family. Amanda needed help with expenses. We offered to help temporarily, but it never stopped, I guessed. It just kept escalating," my father admitted, tears forming in his eyes. "Every month she needs more. The house, Emma's activities, her shopping habits. We've tried to talk to her, but she gets hysterical, threatens to expose everything, says we don't love her or Emma. We're trapped," my mother whispered. "We've given her nearly all our retirement savings. Your father has postponed retirement twice already." The magnitude of their predicament hit me. My parents, now in their 60s, had sacrificed their financial security to protect Amanda's image. "Have you considered that Emma might be better off knowing the truth?" I asked gently. "That continuing this charade is teaching her terrible lessons about relationships and honesty?" "Amanda insists Emma can't know," my mother said. She says it would traumatize her. Meanwhile, Amanda publicly humiliates me, portraying me as the family failure while she's destroying your financial future, I pointed out. My father reached for my hand. We're sorry about the birthday party, Bree. We should have stopped her. We've never approved of how she treats you. But you've never stood up for me either, I said, the old hurt surfacing. No, my mother admitted. We haven't. We've been so focused on Amanda's crises that we've taken your strength for granted. We've failed you both, in different ways. It was the first acknowledgement I'd ever received from them about their unequal treatment. Something shifted between us. A crack in the familiar dynamics. I want to help, I said finally. But not by keeping secrets. This situation isn't sustainable. What do you suggest? My father asked. First, you need to stop giving Amanda money. Completely. I can help you talk to her about it. She'll expose Todd, my mother protested. Maybe that's what needs to happen, I countered. Or maybe she needs to finally face reality. Either way, you can't keep sacrificing yourselves. They didn't agree immediately, but I could see them considering my words. It was a start. I left with a promise to help them develop a plan, feeling both drained and oddly hopeful. For the first time, we had spoken honestly about the family dynamics that had shaped us all. That night, I texted Amanda again. We need to talk about Mom and Dad's finances and your situation with Todd. This isn't about judgment. It's about finding a sustainable solution. Her response came hours later. Stay out of my business. Not everyone wants to live alone with cats. The dismissal stung, but it also strengthened my resolve. I had tried to approach this privately and compassionately. Amanda had rejected that opportunity. 1 week later, my mother called to invite me to a family dinner at their house. Amanda insisted on hosting, she explained. She said she wants to clear the air. Did you talk to her about the money? I asked. We tried. My father's voice came on the line, apparently on speakerphone. She became very upset, accused us of loving you more, threatened to cut us off from Emma. But we did make it clear we can't provide any more financial support, my mother added. She didn't take it well, but she knows our position now. I agreed to attend the dinner, though apprehension knotted my stomach. If Amanda had called this gathering after being cut off financially, she had an agenda. I needed to be prepared for whatever she might do. The night of the dinner, I dressed carefully in clothes that made me feel confident: black pants, a deep blue blouse, low heels. As I prepared to leave, I found myself looking at Oliver, my one-eyed warrior who had survived abandonment and injury. Time to channel some of your resilience, I told him, scratching behind his ears. Whatever happened tonight, I wouldn't be the family scapegoat any longer. The truth was coming to light. One way or another, Amanda had insisted on hosting the family dinner at our parents' house, arriving early to take over the kitchen. By the time I pulled into the driveway, delicious smells wafted from the open windows, and classical music played softly in the background. The perfect hostess, as always. Taking a deep breath, I walked inside to find a scene carefully staged for family harmony. The dining room table was set with my mother's best china. Fresh flowers graced the center. Amanda wore an expensive-looking cream dress, her hair and makeup flawless. Bree! There you are. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. We were just about to start without you. Todd sat stiffly at the table, phone placed conspicuously face down beside him. He nodded at me without making eye contact. Emma ran over for a hug, the only genuine welcome in the room. Aunt Bree, I've been reading those astronomy books you gave me. Did you know Jupiter has 79 moons? 79 moons? That's amazing, sweetie, I replied, treasuring her enthusiasm. Emma, that's enough science talk at dinner, Amanda interrupted. Remember what we discussed about appropriate conversation topics for young ladies? Emma's face fell slightly. Yes, Mom. Sorry. Throughout the elaborate meal Amanda had prepared, she dominated the conversation with stories about her charity committee work and Emma's achievements in ballet. She also made pointed references to recent expensive purchases: a new tennis bracelet, plans for a kitchen renovation, a potential vacation home. My parents exchanged worried glances at each mention, clearly recognizing these as items they would no longer be financing. Todd remained mostly silent, checking his phone surreptitiously when he thought no one was looking. "Todd, dear, would you open another bottle of wine?" Amanda asked sweetly when she caught him looking at his screen. "And perhaps leave your phone in the kitchen? Family time is so precious." The tension in his jaw was visible as he complied. As dessert was served, Amanda turned her attention to me. "So, Bree, how are your pets?" The slight pause made it clear she didn't consider my cats worthy of being called by name. "They're wonderful. Thanks for asking," I replied evenly. "And the clinic? Still treating hamsters and budgies?" "Among other animals, yes. We're actually expanding next month. I've hired another veterinarian to help with the increased client load." Amanda's smile tightened. "How nice for you. Though I imagine it gets lonely, coming home to an empty house every night." "My house isn't empty, Amanda. It's filled with exactly what I choose to fill it with." Emma piped up unexpectedly. "I like Aunt Bree's cats. Oliver is my favorite. He's brave with just one eye." Amanda shot her daughter a look. "Emma, we talked about interrupting adult conversations." "She wasn't interrupting," I said. "She was contributing." "I don't need parenting advice from someone who dresses cats in sweaters," Amanda snapped, the veneer of civility cracking. "And I don't need life advice from someone who's bankrupting our parents to maintain a false image," I retorted before I could stop myself. The table went silent. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. My mother stared at her plate. Amanda recovered quickly, rising to her feet with a brittle laugh. "I think it's time for a toast," she announced, lifting her wine glass. "To family, and to understanding the true meaning of that word." She looked directly at me. "Some of us are blessed with the joy of real family, raising a child, building a marriage, creating a home that people actually want to visit. Others substitute with pets and pretend it's the same. I just want to say how grateful I am to have experienced the real thing." The calculated cruelty of her words hung in the air. I saw my parents' discomfort, Todd's tight expression, Emma's confusion. This was Amanda's response to being financially cut off, a public reassertion of her superiority. A reminder that she was the daughter with the real family. Despite knowing it was all built on lies, something inside me shifted. Not the familiar hurt that had characterized our relationship for decades, but a calm certainty. This cycle needed to end, not just for me, but for all of us trapped in Amanda's carefully constructed reality. I stood slowly, maintaining eye contact with my sister. The room fell silent as I raised my own glass. "I wonder what's more pathetic," I said clearly, "loving my cats, or stealing from our parents to fund your husband's second family in Portland, while pretending you don't know about it?" The sound of Todd's glass shattering on the hardwood floor punctuated my words. Amanda's face drained of color, her expression frozen in a half-smile that now looked grotesque. "What did you just say?" Todd broke the silence, his voice dangerously quiet. "Bree's just being dramatic," Amanda attempted to recover, but her voice trembled. "She's jealous of what we have." "What we have?" Todd repeated, turning to her. "You knew? About Portland? About Stephanie and Jason? For how long?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Amanda insisted weakly. "Stop lying, Amanda," my father interjected, his voice weary but firm. "The charade is over." Emma looked from one adult to another, her young face registering confusion and the dawning of understanding. "Dad, what's in Portland? Who are Stephanie and Jason?" The genuine bewilderment in her voice confirmed she had been kept in the dark. Amanda had apparently sheltered her daughter from the truth, even as she used it to manipulate her husband and parents. "Emma, why don't you go upstairs with Grandma for a bit?" my mother suggested gently, rising from her chair. "No," Emma protested. "I'm not a baby. Everyone's keeping secrets, and I want to know what's happening." The room fell silent again, adults exchanging uncomfortable glances. "Your father has another family in Portland," Amanda finally said, her voice bitter. "A girlfriend and a son. He's been lying to us for years." Todd's face flushed with anger. "While we're telling truths, Why don't you tell them how long you've known? How you've been blackmailing me for 3 years, threatening to take Emma away if I didn't maintain your lifestyle? How you convinced your parents to drain their retirement accounts to fund your shopping addiction because I started diverting money to support my son? Your son? Emma's voice was small, the words striking like physical blows. I have a brother? The pain in her question seemed to momentarily break through Amanda's defenses. She reached for her daughter, but Emma backed away. Everyone's been lying, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. Everyone. She ran from the room, my mother hurrying after her. How dare you? Amanda hissed at me. How dare you destroy my family? You destroyed it yourself, I replied quietly. With every lie, every manipulation, every time you chose appearances over honesty. You had no right, she insisted. This was private. It stopped being private when you dragged our parents into it, I countered. When you nearly bankrupted them to maintain your facade. When you publicly humiliated me to distract from your own problems. Todd stood abruptly. I need to make some calls. This changes everything. As he left the room, my father reached across the table for Amanda's hand. Sweetheart, we've been enabling something unhealthy. For all of us. Maybe this is an opportunity to start fresh. With honesty. Amanda yanked her hand away. Start fresh? My marriage is over. My daughter just learned her father has another child. My whole life is falling apart. And you think this is a good thing? Your life as you've been pretending it is might be over, I said. But now you have a chance to build something real. Easy for you to say, she spat. You've got nothing to lose. The old accusation that my life was somehow less valuable because it didn't mirror hers no longer had power over me. I have plenty to lose, Amanda. We all do. But living in truth is worth the risk. She stood, gathering her purse. I need to find my daughter. This conversation is over. As she stormed out, the dining room fell silent, except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. My father put his head in his hands. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I didn't plan for it to happen like this. No, he sighed. But perhaps it needed to happen. We've all been trapped in Amanda's web of lies for too long. Upstairs, I could hear muffled voices, my mother, Amanda, and Emma. The 3 generations of women in my family facing truths too long concealed. I began clearing the table, needing something concrete to do with my hands. My father joined me, and we worked in companionable silence, washing and drying dishes as the evening's revelations settled around us. You know, he said finally, I've always been proud of you, Bree. Your independence, your compassion for animals, the way you built your practice from nothing. I should have told you more often. Tears pricked at my eyes. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. I failed both my daughters in different ways, he continued. I let Amanda believe that appearances were what mattered most. I let you believe your achievements weren't valued. We can start fresh too, I suggested. All of us. He nodded, a cautious hope in his tired eyes. Yes, maybe we can. As I dried the last plate, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Emma appeared in the doorway, her eyes red from crying but her chin lifted with a determination that reminded me of myself at her age. Aunt Bree, she said quietly, can I talk to you? I followed her to the back porch, where we sat on the swing, gently rocking back and forth in the evening air. Mom's really upset, she stated simply. She's crying in the guest room and won't come out. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of adult problems, I told her honestly. Is it true about Dad? That he has another family? I nodded. Yes, sweetie. It's true. She was quiet for a moment. And Mom knew? All this time? For about 3 years, yes. Why didn't she tell me? Why did everyone lie? The question broke my heart with its simplicity. Sometimes adults think they're protecting children by hiding the truth. Sometimes they're really protecting themselves. Emma considered this. I have a brother, she said, testing the words. A little brother. Do you think I'll ever meet him? I don't know, I answered honestly. But that would be nice, wouldn't it? She nodded. Mom says everything's ruined because of you. That you were jealous and wanted to hurt us. What do you think? Emma looked up at me, her 8-year-old face serious in the porch light. I think Mom doesn't like when she's not in control. And I think maybe it's good that everyone knows the truth now, even if it hurts. Out of the mouths of babes. That's very wise, Emma. Aunt Bree? When things calm down, could I come see your cat sometime? Maybe learn more about being a vet? I'd like that very much, I told her, feeling the first hints of healing begin in the midst of the evening's chaos. Inside, I could hear Todd on the phone, Amanda still crying upstairs, my parents speaking in low tones in the kitchen. One sentence had indeed changed everything. The carefully maintained illusions had shattered, leaving raw truth in their wake. But within that painful truth lay the possibility of something we'd never truly had as a family. Authenticity. 6 months passed before a fragile new normal began to emerge from the rubble of that fateful dinner. The immediate aftermath had been as difficult as expected. Todd had moved out the next day, alternating between anger at Amanda's deception and guilt over his own. Emma had refused to speak to either parent for nearly a week, staying with my parents until a temporary custody arrangement could be worked out. Amanda, true to form, had initially attempted to maintain appearances, telling friends and acquaintances that Todd was away on business. But as weeks passed and divorce proceedings began, the truth gradually emerged in our social circle. I kept my distance during those first turbulent weeks, focusing on my expanding veterinary practice and giving my family space to process their new reality. Emma was the exception. I welcomed her visits, introducing her to the clinic and my cats, providing a neutral sanctuary away from the tension at home. 1 month after the revelation, I received an unexpected text from Amanda. Can we talk? Just us. We met at a small cafe on the edge of town, away from familiar eyes. Amanda looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down across from her. Of course. I ordered coffee, unsure what to expect. After an awkward silence, she spoke. I've started therapy. Twice a week. That's good, I replied carefully. The therapist says I have issues with validation and control. She gave a short, humorless laugh. Apparently, I've been trying to create a perfect external life to compensate for feeling inadequate inside. Who knew? I nodded, waiting for her to continue. I was awful to you, Bree. Not just at Emma's party, but for years. She looked down at her hands. I was jealous. Jealous? Of me? The concept seemed so foreign after years of being made to feel like the family disappointment. You've always known who you are. You built a career doing what you love. You've never needed anyone's approval. Her voice cracked slightly. I've spent my entire life trying to be what I thought everyone wanted. The perfect daughter, wife, mother. And it was never enough. The admission stunned me. I had no idea you felt that way. How could you? I never let anyone see the real me. I'm not sure I even knew who that was. We talked for 2 hours that day, beginning the slow, painful process of untangling decades of competition, resentment, and misunderstanding. There were no miracle reconciliations, no immediate healing of deep wounds, but it was a start. In the months that followed, our family began to rebuild on a foundation of difficult truths rather than comfortable illusions. My parents, freed from the financial drain of supporting Amanda's lifestyle, worked with a financial advisor to salvage what remained of their retirement. The relief of honesty seemed to physically transform my father, who looked years younger as the burden of secrecy lifted. Todd moved permanently to Portland to be closer to Stephanie and their son Jason, while maintaining regular visitation with Emma. After initial resistance, Amanda agreed to let Emma meet her half-brother, a tentative first step toward a blended family arrangement no one had envisioned. As for me, the veterinary practice continued to flourish. I hired a second associate and expanded our services to include therapy animals, inspired partly by Emma's growing interest in animal care. She began spending Saturday mornings at the clinic, learning to handle the gentler animals and discovering a natural affinity for the work. You're good with them, I told her one Saturday, as she carefully brushed a therapy rabbit named Clover. You have a gentle touch. Mom says I get that from you, she replied, surprising me. Amanda acknowledging any similarity between us was unprecedented. 6 months to the day after the dinner revelation, I hosted a small gathering at my apartment. It wasn't a celebration, exactly more an acknowledgement of how far we'd come and how much further we had to go. The occasion was Oliver's adoption day, marking 4 years since I'd found him injured behind my clinic. In previous years, I'd marked it quietly, perhaps with a special treat for my one-eyed warrior. This time, I'd invited my parents, Emma, and, with some trepidation, Amanda. I kept it simple. Homemade pizza, a small cake shaped like a cat paw, and paper party hats for humans and felines alike, though only Jasper tolerated wearing his for more than a few seconds. Emma arrived first, bearing a hand-drawn card for Oliver that brought tears to my eyes. My parents followed with a cat tree they'd selected together, a peace offering of sorts. Amanda was the last to arrive, carrying a wrapped package and looking uncharacteristically nervous. I wasn't sure what to bring, she admitted, handing me the gift. Inside was a framed photo I'd never seen before me at about 10 years old, holding a neighbor's kitten, my face alight with joy. Mom found it in an old album. I thought you might like it. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched. It's perfect. The evening wasn't without awkward moments. Amanda still sometimes defaulted to superficial conversation when emotions ran deep. My father occasionally checked his phone for retirement account updates, a new habit born of financial anxiety. But there were good moments too. Emma teaching my mother how to properly hold Jasper, my father recounting childhood stories I'd forgotten, Amanda asking thoughtful questions about the therapy animal program. As we ate cake, Amanda surprised me again. Your work is really meaningful, Bree, she said quietly. The way you help animals, and now children through the therapy program. I should have seen that sooner. The simple acknowledgement, delivered without qualifications or comparisons, meant more than she could know. Later, as the gathering wound down, I found myself on the balcony with my sister, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Do you think we'll ever be close? She asked suddenly. Like real sisters, I mean. I considered the question carefully. I think we're learning to be real with each other. That's the first step. She nodded. I spent so many years performing the role of perfect sister, wife, mother. I'm not sure I know how to just be Amanda. Maybe that's the gift in all this, I suggested. The chance to discover who you really are, beyond the roles. It's terrifying, she admitted, but worth it, I think. We stood in companionable silence, the weight of our shared history between us, but also the possibility of a different future. Inside, I could hear Emma laughing as Oliver batted at a new toy, my parents' voices joining in the moment of simple joy. The apartment that Amanda had once mockingly called my substitute family home had become, just for tonight, a gathering place for my actual family, imperfect, wounded, but finally authentic. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. Amanda and I had decades of patterns to unlearn. My parents were still adjusting to their new financial reality. Emma was navigating the complexities of her parents' divorce and the discovery of her half-brother. But for the first time, we were facing these challenges without the suffocating weight of pretense. I thought about the question Amanda had asked at Emma's birthday party 6 months ago. Still playing house with your cats instead of having real children? It had been designed to wound, to place me on the outside of what she considered a real family. Now I understood that family takes many forms, and authenticity matters more than appearance. My 3 cats, my flourishing practice, my slowly healing family connections. These weren't substitutes or consolation prizes. They were the life I had built, the love I had chosen to give and receive. Not perfect, but real. Not what others expected, but what brought me genuine fulfillment. In the end, truth, though painful, had brought a freedom none of us had known while living in the shadow of appearances. Amanda's perfect image had shattered, but a real person was emerging from the pieces. My role as family disappointment had dissolved, allowing me to be seen for who I truly was. Our parents, though financially diminished, seemed emotionally richer. And Emma, watching all of us adults stumble toward authenticity, was perhaps learning the most valuable lesson of all, that being true to yourself, even when difficult, matters more than any carefully curated image. As the evening came to a close, and I said goodbye to my family at the door, Amanda lingered a moment longer. "Bree," she said quietly, "I'm sorry. For everything." "I know," I replied. "We're going to be okay. Different, but okay." After they left, I sat on the couch with Oliver purring in my lap, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. The public humiliation at Emma's birthday party had been painful, but it had set in motion a chain of events that ultimately freed us all. Sometimes, I realized, the most loving thing we can do for others and ourselves is to speak truth, even when it shatters illusions. The real connections that can grow in that newly cleared ground are worth the temporary pain of honesty. Have you ever had to choose between keeping a painful truth hidden or speaking out, knowing it might change everything? What did you decide? And how did it turn out? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. If you found something meaningful in my journey, from humiliation to authenticity, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. Share this with someone who might need permission to live their truth, whatever that looks like. Thank you for listening, and remember that real freedom often begins with that first difficult sentence of truth.